Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bitch and Brainstorm podcast. I'm your host, Elaine Terso, and I'm here with my friend Michael Whitehouse, who is the fun event guy, virtual event guy, right? And so we're going to be talking about summits and events and fun things like that. And Michael is part of our Elevate Your Online Presence Business Summit, and he's going to be on the April 20th panel on the marketing panel that's going to be starting at 11:45 a.m. Pacific time. And so this is going to be a super fun panel because we're going to be talking about all of the different ways that you can market your business. Like there's so many ways, and one of them is events. And Michael, before we get into the meat and the potatoes, would you mind telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am the fun virtual event guy. Prior to this, I was the guy who knows a guy as a professional networker. So people hired me to make connections for them. And I discovered it was very challenging to do that on a one-on-one basis, having to make a lot of individual introductions because it resulted in a lot of kind of first dates. So my clients would end up on a call with someone, be like, all right, yeah, so Michael says we should talk because, okay, so how are we working it? What are we doing? And then I realized if I was to run an event for a client instead of making an introduction for them, then they would have a bunch of speakers that I find similar to the way I found them their networking partners. But when they had a conversation, it'd be, how should we work together again? Because an event is a joint venture. So they've already worked together once by collaboratively creating an event. And now they're looking at collaboration number 2. So it's functionally similar, but a lot more fun because we have events and bring people together. But it's basically still goes back to my networking DNA.
Yeah. So, obviously we're running a virtual event here, right? And so I know that running summits is something that you do on a regular basis. Can you talk a little bit about your very first summit? Tell us a little story about what you did and how is that maybe different than what you do now? What lessons have you learned from doing that?
Sure. Yeah. So I ran my first event because in 2020 is when I really launched into having an online business, like about a million, billion other people. And I started to discover virtual events. I love live events. I've been going to and helping run them since 1996. So I discovered virtual events. I'm like, oh, wow, this will be great. I'll meet all these people. We'll have so much fun. It'll be so great. I don't have to get a hotel. I don't have to travel. This is going to be the best of both worlds. I can't wait. And then I went to my first event and it was pre-recorded. It was watching videos.
God, that was the worst.
Yeah, I went to another event. And it was webinar format. So it was kind of like watching a video that happened to be live. But it was still watching a video. There was no interaction to it. I wasn't at an event. I was consuming content.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of the event runners didn't know the difference between content and events. An event you're at, content you consume. So in February 2020, I launched an event called Conference 21, celebrating the not 2020-ness of 2021. Remember back in December 2021, we thought everything would be better at New Year's? We fooled. But anyway, that's what I built an event around. But so I ran. It was very successful because people were desperate for any kind of interaction they could get. So that actually went quite well. And then the next one was not quite as good. The one after that was even worse than that. But what I actually really learned from the third one was in August 2021, and almost no attendees showed up, but all the speakers were there. And I went to my speakers. I'm like, sorry, guys, looks like, this hasn't been much of an event. Nobody showed up. And one of the speakers basically said, what am I, chopped liver? I'm here. And the speakers actually all told me they had a good experience because the way I build my events, my speakers interact with each other. So it's like hanging out in the green room.
Yeah.
So my speakers are all saying, no, I had a great time. I met this person. I'm going to hire this guy for this thing. We're going to collaborate on this. I learned that from this guy. So without all those pesky attendees in the way, it was just all the speakers talking to each other, and they loved it. And then the events from there are that experience, but the attendees get to come too. So it's almost like the event takes place in the green room. But what I learned there is it's all about the interactions, all about bringing people together and making those connections. Content's commoditized. I don't want to say it's worthless. Content's valuable. You need to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
But you can find it on YouTube, podcasts, books, anywhere. It's the interaction that an event creates that you won't get otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. That was, things that, I know there's so many different ways to run a summit, and having pre-recorded videos was not was not something that I really wanted to do because that's not how I consume content. If it's on my calendar, I'll show up. I'll show
Yeah.
up live if I, but I just don't have time. I don't. And that's actually one of the things that why I was really adamant about not doing pre-recorded videos was I really wanted to have a live event. I wanted there to be conversations. I wanted people to engage, and having the panels is very similar to what you're saying, is that you can build relationships and meet new people and find potential collaboration partners and stuff like that during that process, because you're all talking and all sharing and all have different perspectives and stuff like that. So I love that there's so much potential and possibilities just by agreeing to be on a summit. And I think that's really, really cool. So can you tell us what is the next summit that you're doing? Because I know you always got them going on.
Yeah. So the next one coming up is April 24th, which is the Grow Your Coaching and Wellness Practice summit. And the one after that is May 1st, which is the Thrive in Any Economic Times. Originally, I call it Thrive in Tough Economic Times. And then I realized for most entrepreneurs, their tough and good times do not align with the economic cycles. It's and tend to cycle a bit faster. Thursday is tough times. Monday is good times. Wednesday is tough times. Wednesday afternoon is good times.
Yeah.
So it's about thriving in all economic times. And I believe actually you're going to be one of our bonus speakers.
I am. Yeah.
Yes, we have that one. And then on the 4th, on May the 4th, as in May the 4th be with you, is Entrepreneur Episode 1, the Phantom Summit, which is, of course, the 4th of our Entrepreneur series, bringing together entrepreneurs who happen to be geeks. It's not about geeky stuff. It's about entrepreneurs who are geeks talking about entrepreneur stuff.
I love it. That's so fun. I was going to do a May the 4th be with you event too. And I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to be tapped out, right? Like my son is going to be home from college. I really want to spend more time with him. So I've actually blocked out the entire month of May. And so I have minimal work, but I will also be going to Paris for 2 weeks. I know I'm a terrible mom. Schedule a trip to Paris when my son will be home from college.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing with having a series of events like Entrepreneur is then I can look at what dates. So the next one is 7/22, which is a more obscure geek date, but it's approximation of Pi Day because 22/7 is Pi. And I think the next one might be on Mole Day, which is October 28th. And then of course I got to put one on Pi Day in March.
Yeah.
So I can play with that kind of stuff. But what you're saying is the great thing about being an entrepreneur is you can build your schedule around, I want to take May off. So you take May off.
Take May off. Yeah, that's the point for being an entrepreneur.
I go to a Monday night board gaming group, and they asked me one night, do you want to do a second game starting at 9:00? And I said, no, if I stay late, my boss is going to be mad at me. And they said, don't you work for yourself? And I'm like, yeah, and my boss is going to be tired tomorrow morning if I stay here till 1 a.m.
Yeah. I love that. So what are some of if someone wanted to put on a summit, if they wanted to create a virtual event, what is the first step you would suggest someone do before they get started?
Hire me.
Okay.
Oh, you mean if they want to do it themselves?
Yeah.
So the first thing to do is to know why they're doing it. I mean, this is the first thing for anything you're doing ever is know why you're doing it. And that sounds obvious, and yet most people skip that step. They run a summit because they've been told you should run a summit. I ran a summit, it's very effective. You should run a summit. Okay. Why? I hear this from people, especially with things like social media. You need to be on TikTok. Why? What are you doing with it? So before you run an event, why are you running an event? Now, when I first ran an event, my thinking was I want to run an event because I think it'll be super fun. That's a perfectly good reason. You want to build email. You want to get emails on your list. That's a good reason. You want to make sales from the state. That's a good reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is. It matters that you know what your reason is, because how you're going to build your event is going to build around that. And also, once you think of that reason, you're going to want to take a step back and say, is this the best tool to do this?
Yeah. If
you're looking to build an email list, a giveaway or a bundle can be as effective as a summit without all the work of a summit. When you sign up for a summit, all the speakers put in a free gift. Well, a giveaway is that without the speakers having to show up. So if you're just trying to build your email list, you can do a giveaway. It's almost as effective without making people sit through 3 days of recorded videos. So, think about why you want to do it. But assuming that the reason you want to do it does require bringing people together, and you want to create connections and you want to build a community and all that sort of thing, I would then say, think about the best events you've been to in which you've engaged with other humans, whether it is through the internet or in person, and then say, how do you get that onto your event?
Yeah.
And focus on that. Most events I've been to live, the best parts of it are the hallway, the bar, the room parties. And there's also some room with a bunch of chairs where some guy stands in a high thing and talks loud. But I can think of very few speeches I've heard at events where I'm like, that's what made it worth coming. Right. It's usually the connections I made. In fact, one of the best events, I went to an event, one of the best things that came of it was someone I met outside because the speaker was so boring I couldn't stay in the room. So I left the room and there was someone out there with purple hair, and I'm like, I like people with purple hair, and I met her and we collaborated on an event, and it was great. But it happened outside the room, and if we'd been on a Zoom call, especially a webinar style call, I couldn't have walked out of the room and met somebody. So think about what's made great events for you, and then make sure it's in your event. And if you're doing a virtual event, there's no hallway unless you create it. There's no bar unless you create it. So if you don't think to create spaces where people can interact, they don't interact. Something I found incredibly powerful is a 3-minute breakout session. Because after a speaker's done, before the next one gets on, there's something in your head, right? Someone said something to you, and you're thinking either, oh, that was really good, or that was terrible, or I didn't know that, or I don't understand what that word means, or what did he mean by this? And that's in your head, and it's blocking everything else. Somebody tries to put more information in, you're like, it's like if you're carrying something, your hands are full, and someone tries to hand you something. Hands are full. Your brain is full, and a lot of these events just go to the next speaker, go to the next speaker, go to the next speaker. Brain's full. You get something you want to say. You give people a 3-minute breakout room, and just tell them, say whatever's on your mind. Your first reaction, your thought, the thing you just learned, the epiphany you had, whatever it is, say that, and off you go. And I do that, and then I play music in the main room, so when they come back in, there's music playing, and I'm dancing. I'm not telling them to dance. I'm not doing one of those awkward, dance party, where some people are into it, and some people are like, all right.
What is that?
I'm dancing. You can dance with me if you want. This is my private dance party. You're welcome to join me. So they clear their head. They hear upbeat music. Maybe they move, and they're reset and recharged, and they're ready for the next speaker. But so there's little things like that keep people engaged. And that's how I have the same number of people at the end of a 6-hour Zoom call as I do at the beginning, which is apparently not what most people do. So, so find ways to create those interactive experiences. Because remember, you don't connect to the internet, you connect through the internet. Or you should.
Yes, I love that. That is super, super good. Well, I cannot wait to continue this conversation in our marketing panel, because I think you bring a really unique perspective to marketing your business and elevating your online presence, which is what this whole thing is about, right? So using events as a way to elevate your online presence is a really great way. Trust me, I'm doing it right now through the summit. So
I'm a bit of a fan of it.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much for being a part of this. It's really cool because when you and I connected, and I was like, hey, you could be my first application, because I had just created everything, and you're like, hey, you could be my first application on this other one I was creating. So it's kind of fun to, collaborate and connect about different things that we're doing, and, staying in touch and all the things. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys later.